What's going on, folks? Justin Garcia, aka Master Chim, and I'm going to make this video about a post that I made a few days ago where I tried to articulate, usually in my button pushing way, that young children, young boys specifically, cannot become respectable men without getting connected to men who are respectable already. And the reason I wrote that, this is actually, it was really directed towards a couple of different parties involved in these dynamics here. Number one, it was the single women who are using these children to sort of validate their own identities. And I'm not saying that there's even any bad intention, that there's some sort of deficiency of love or caring or commitment to the raising of the child. What I'm saying is there's a certain point where these women have to acknowledge that they are not men, they do not know how to be a man, and that these young boys need the influence of masculinity. And there are sort of formulas that are passed down functionally from men to other men. And that chain of wisdom and functional masculinity, we can call it, is unbroken in society right up until you as an individual decide to break it. So first, that first group, the single women who do not want to expose their young sons to the influence of masculinity, or maybe are just under the delusion that they're enough. I could teach my young boy how to be a man, as if they would even have an idea of what that criteria even is. So it was certainly to them. But then the other group were the individuals who were supporting the notion that there's no significance between, or no distinction to be made between the role of a mother and a father in forming a functional man or a woman. Right? I don't speak on women's issues. I don't speak about, how do we raise young girls into becoming functional women. I have plenty to say about it, but it's not really the position that I want to put out there to sort of discuss. And it's certainly not something that I want to deal with. My priority is helping young men become men, helping deficient men become functional men, stronger men, trying to get rid of any weak mindsets and philosophies. So that latter group, that people, those people who are out there thinking that it's the same thing, as long as there's somebody that loves and cares for them, that's fine. That's all they need. Well, that is fine if your criteria is making sure, I guess, they're fed or they're not, unhealthy in any way physically. Or you could say you want to raise them and train them to be able to sort of fit functionally into this dysfunctional worldview that you have, because that's a thing also. I would say that, when you look at a lot of deviant behaviors in society right now, and I'm going to pick an extreme one just to make the point easily, pedophilia. One of the things you'll notice about pedophiles is that many of them were molested by pedophiles as children themselves. And as children, in their very, malleable, impressionable stages of childhood, they were sort of given this association of what sexuality was to them. And it was deviant, it was dysfunctional, and it wound up being the basis of their identity in that particular application as they grew up. So similarly, you will have, and again, that was an extreme example, right? So I'm just doing that to say there are associations that children will make that will help shape the foundation of how they see themselves as adults. And when you have the absence of a strong male role model, right? That's the catchphrase, right? And one that I'm perfectly okay with. When you lack a strong male role model for young boys, they do not have functional behavior modeled for them. And now a single mother, you could be strong, you could be reliable, intelligent, educated, trustworthy. You could have all these virtuous behaviors, but it is still being modeled by a woman. And you will see that a lot of young boys who don't have that influence become what I call womanly men, right? Womanly men. What do I mean by that? Of course, a whole bunch of people are going to be triggered by me using that phrase, but listen, if it's accurate, it's accurate. What I mean by womanly men is they go around and one of their conflict resolution formulas, the way that they deal with adversity in life, is to seek catharsis. It's to seek the defense of their security. And they tend to be on the more emotional side. Why? Because when comparing men and women in large groups, you will find more emotional, nurturing-based personalities and temperaments in women. Obviously, there's a spectrum to be had, but if we're talking about what is normal, in a statistical, distributive sort of, context, what is normal, women are going to be more emotional. They're going to be nurturers. Men are going to be more analytical. They're going to be protectors, providers. They're going to be the conduits through which the real world brings resources into the home, right? So when you have that deficiency of a strong male role model and the formulas that represents and the behavior being modeled as a man to these young men, they don't see themselves as these functional protectors and providers in society. Now, I'm not saying they can't identify that, intellectually, and yeah, I'm the provider of my family. It's when they are stressed. It's when the bar gets put on the weight, right? When the anxiety is high, they will revert to an identity that holds very significantly the importance of catharsis and the defense of security. And that nurturing emotional side of them is what makes them a womanly man. It's not something that can't be resolved, but they need the work to do it. All I'm advocating for is a sort of early intervention, if you will, right? So I wanted to just articulate that point. A lot of people, a lot of single moms, they took it as I kind of expected, that I was attacking them, that they didn't love or weren't committed. Like, no. And I will say, whereas I was directing this sort of advice to you in part as one of the groups, ultimately, when it comes to what we're trying to salvage here, it's not about you. Right? It's not about you. I am advocating for your son becoming as strong a man as possible. And if you, as a mother, think they do not need to be around men in order to do that, well, it's probably not a mystery why you're fucking single to begin with. All right? I'm starting to get fired up. I didn't want to do that. Well, I appreciate you guys for listening to the videos, and let me know what you think. MasterChim.com, sign up for my daily emails, all the other information you could find there. But I'll talk to you guys soon. And as always, brothers and sisters that are on mission, pressure to power.